Hi folks, and welcome to Idris Astrology. Today we are going to go through a Horary chart for a sports event. The question is Khabib vs Justin, who will win? We will begin with an introduction, followed by identifying the relevant houses and analysis of the planets in the houses and lords of the houses. This will be followed by our summary and judgment. To explain all of the concepts and techniques covered here would require an entire course. Instead, I will be giving a brief overview of the techniques that can be used in a sports horary, demonstrating both their application and effectiveness. A sports horary is one of the most simple types of charts, as we are just comparing the relative strengths of two fighters. Most other horaries will be significantly more involved. Let's begin. Khabib and Justin are fighters in the UFC, and they are set to fight each other on October the 24th, with Khabib defending his title. At the time the chart was cast, Khabib had fought 28 matches in the UFC and never lost a fight. However, all of the fame and the recent passing of his father may mean that we do not see the same Khabib as before. He now faces Justin. Who will win? The chart was cast on the 21st of October 2020 at 3:44 p.m. in Cyprus, and we have 6 degrees Pisces on the ascendant. The first step is to determine the relevant houses. This is the first step for almost every type of horary. The condition of the houses will tell us the condition of the fighters, and it will determine which planets represent the two fighters. As the title holder, Khabib gets the 10th house. This is the house of kings and champions. His opponent Justin gets the 4th being turned 7th from the 10th, which is his open enemy. The condition of these houses will tell us what condition the fighters are in. We will ignore any aspects to the house cusps, because we are looking at opposing houses, so an aspect cast to one cusp will automatically be cast to the other. For instance, Mars is making a sextile to the 4th and a trine to the 10th, so this cancels out. If a planet aspects one house, it will automatically aspect the other, and so it doesn't tell us a great deal about the situation. Instead, we must look at planets within the houses to determine the fighter's condition. The 10th house has the south node in it, while the 4th has the north. Since we are looking at opposing houses, this effect is also automatic, so we may only consider one of these testimonies. As we know, Khabib may not be in the best shape, so let us only consider the south node in the 10th and disregard the north node. The south node is about 7 degrees away from the 10th cusp, so this is a minor debility for Khabib. Whilst the moon is technically in the 10th house, it is less than 5 degrees away from the 11th cusp, and so it is considered as being in the 11th in terms of its quality. Even if this was not the case, it is in a different sign than the cusp, which acts as a kind of barrier, and this significantly reduces any effect that it would have on the 10th cusp. Now let us look at the lords of the houses. The lords of the houses behave as actors in a play. They will represent the fighters themselves, and their condition will tell us who is stronger and in a better position to win. The cusp of the 10th house is in Sagittarius, so therefore the lord of the 10th house is Jupiter. The 4th cusp is in Gemini, so the lord of the 4th is Mercury. Essential dignity will tell us the value that the planets have in themselves. It shows us how well they will fight and who deserves to win. However, we know that who deserves to win isn't always who actually wins, and so accidental dignity will tell us who is in a better position and who does actually win. Both planets are in succedent houses. However, Mercury is in the 8th. This is much weaker than the 11th, so we have a statement against Justin. Mercury is also under sunbeams and is moving towards the sun. Normally, being within 9 degrees of the sun is a significant debility, but since it is in a different sign than the sun, this reduces its effect. I estimate that this has about the same effect as the south node being 7 degrees away from the 10th cusp. The sun is also the natural ruler of champions, so this may show that Khabib, as the current champion, has some kind of power over Justin. However, this is additional detail and is not necessary in order to arrive at a judgment. What is important is that Mercury is debilitated by its proximity to the Sun. So far for Khabib, we have the South Node near the 10th cusp, and for Justin we have Mercury in the 8th and under sunbeams. Now we can look at any aspects to the planets. The Moon is applying a sextile to Mercury, which is a minor positive statement. Even though the Moon is in detriment and Mercury is in the fall of the Moon, if all else is equal, this will give Justin a small edge. We also have Mars squaring Jupiter. Mars is in its own sign, and Jupiter exalts Mars. This is a major positive testimony for Khabib. Some people may look at this aspect and see a malefic planet aspecting a weak Jupiter. However, this is not the proper interpretation in this context. In this instance, Mars does not act as a malefic. It is in its own sign, so we have a good, strong Mars, and Jupiter welcomes it by exaltation. If Mars was in detriment or fall, or if Jupiter was in the detriment or fall of Mars, we may have considered this a bad aspect for Khabib. But especially in the context of a fight, a well-dignified Mars is exactly what we want to win. The application by square is also not of concern. The square just shows that receiving this aspect will not be easy, but it does not make it a bad aspect. Mars is also the dispositor for the part of resignation. This made me reconsider the nature of this aspect, but we are looking for accidental dignity, and Mars certainly provides that. This is much stronger than the Moon's application to Mercury, so therefore I predicted that Khabib would win, and so he did. During the fight, neither opponent fought particularly well. This is shown by Jupiter being in fall and Mercury being peregrine, but Khabib clearly had the edge. This highlights the importance of accidental over essential dignity in the context of a sports chart. Almost every testimony taken for this chart was clear during the lead-up and the fight itself. The South Node in the 10th showed Khabib in a state of retreat following his father's death. Mercury being under sunbeam was seen in the pre-fight interview. Justin was extremely respectful and almost in awe of his opponent.
He has a lot of good things. Everything's unorthodox, and at different times. Everything in there is timing. Timing and space is the most important factors when you're in a fight. And I believe, he's world-class in that regard.
The dispositor for the part of resignation giving Khabib the edge is shown by the fact that after he won the fight, he retired from the UFC. In other words, Khabib knew that this would be his last fight, and it gave him strength and motivation to fight that little bit harder. And the fact that the actual fighting itself was nothing spectacular from either of them was shown by both their significators having little essential dignity. This chart is a beautiful example of how Horary shows the reality of the situation as it is. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.